Part 6, The End of Reconstruction. As Reconstruction entered the mid-1870s, many Americans believed the nation was finally beginning to heal from the Civil War. But beneath the surface, the political coalition that had sustained Reconstruction was beginning to fracture. One of the greatest turning points came with the Panic of 1873. Triggered by the collapse of major railroad investments and widespread financial speculation, the nation entered a severe economic depression. Businesses failed, banks closed, unemployment rose sharply. Across the country, many Americans became more concerned about surviving the economic crisis than continuing Reconstruction in the South. Support for federal intervention began to weaken. At the same time, Southern Democrats, often calling themselves redeemers, worked to regain political control of state governments. They argued that Reconstruction governments were corrupt, expensive, and imposed by Northern politicians. Some sought change through elections. Others relied on intimidation and violence. Organizations such as the White League in Louisiana and the Red Shirts in Mississippi and South Carolina openly used force. They used force to suppress black voters and intimidate Republican office holders. In many communities, elections became contests decided not simply by ballots, but by threats, beatings, and murder. Federal troops often intervened to preserve order, but Northern voters increasingly questioned how long those troops should remain in the South. By 1876, Reconstruction faced its greatest political crisis. That year's presidential election pitted Republican Rutherford B. Hayes against Democrat Samuel J. Tilden. The results quickly descended into chaos. Tilden won the national popular vote and appeared to have enough electoral votes to become president. But disputed election returns from Florida, Louisiana, South Carolina, and one elector from Oregon left the outcome uncertain. For months, neither party accepted the results. Congress created a special electoral commission to determine which electoral votes should count. The commission ultimately awarded every disputed electoral vote to Rutherford B. Hayes, giving him the presidency by the narrowest possible margin, 185 electoral votes to 184. Many Democrats across the country were absolutely furious at the commission's final decision. Many Republicans feared another national crisis. To prevent renewed political conflict, leaders from both parties reached what historians call the Compromise of 1877. Although no formal written agreement survives, historians generally agree on its basic terms. Democrats accepted Hayes as president. In return, Republicans agreed to withdraw the remaining federal troops from the South. That decision effectively ended Reconstruction. Without the protection of federal troops, Republican governments across the South quickly collapsed. Democratic Redeemer governments regained control throughout the former Confederacy. Over the following years, many of Reconstruction's greatest achievements came under increasing attack. African American voting rights were systematically restricted through poll taxes, literacy tests, and grandfather clauses. Segregation laws, later known collectively as Jim Crow, spread throughout the South. Violence and discrimination became deeply embedded in everyday life. Many of the constitutional rights guaranteed during Reconstruction remained on paper, but were often denied in practice for generations. Yet it would be a mistake to conclude that Reconstruction accomplished nothing. The 13th Amendment permanently abolished slavery. The 14th Amendment established birthright citizenship and equal protection under the law. The 15th Amendment prohibited denying the right to vote based on race. These constitutional amendments survived long after Reconstruction itself had ended. Nearly a century later, during the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s, activists and the Supreme Court would once again turn to these Reconstruction amendments as the legal foundation for dismantling segregation. In many ways, Reconstruction did not simply end in 1877. Its central questions continue to shape America today. Reconstruction remains one of the most debated periods in American history. Some historians emphasize its remarkable achievements. Others focus on its failures and unrealized promises. Perhaps the greatest lesson is that history is rarely as simple as victory or defeat. Reconstruction was an extraordinary attempt to redefine American democracy after the Civil War. It achieved remarkable changes while falling short for future generations. Understanding Reconstruction means understanding both its successes and its limitations. Only then can we fully appreciate why its legacy continues to matter nearly 150 years later. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this series, please subscribe here on YouTube and consider supporting History_Academics on Patreon. In our next series, we'll examine how the rise of Jim Crow reshaped the South and why the struggle over civil rights continued well into the 20th century.